Salutations, everyone. Welcome back to Total Warhammer 3. I'm Lord Tormund, and today we're here with a guide on 10 tips on how to play the vampire count better. Tip 1. Although the vampire counts have phenomenal melee units, you will struggle fighting elite enemy armies, so the advice is have 2 armies for each enemy army, or use ambushes near cities to enlist garrisons. Otherwise, you will struggle to kill enemy armies efficiently without losing most of your own army. So, because both of your armies are very cheap, one army can be made up of mostly skeletons or zombies. The numbers really help, especially if you're going to use auto-resolve at all. Tip 2. Losing units in battle is not actually a bad thing for your faction, unlike many others. Because at the end of a battle, you have the dead rise mechanic, where there's a chance for any units destroyed, as in your unit is completely dead in battle, to come back. There are many times where I've fought a battle and I've lost a high-level elite unit, only for it to be recovered. There are certain techs that boost it. If you're losing units and you want to make sure you don't units, make sure you research those resurrection chance techs. But by and large, don't be afraid of losing units. You can simply replenish them quickly using the Raise Dead mechanic, or the Dead Rise at the end may give them back to you, which is amazing. Tip 3. Tech for the vampire counts, more than most other factions, really makes a difference on how your units fight in battle. The Book of Arcane line will strengthen your skeletons and any of your undead infantry and even some of your cav to the levels that they will start to match enemy units. They will never exceed enemy units because by and large your units are weaker unit by unit than other factions, but it makes a significant difference in their job of being meat shields and keeping the enemy busy while your lords and monsters kill everything. So unlike most factions, tech is crucial. If you're struggling in battles, research techs that boost your units in battle. If you're struggling on campaign, research the techs that help there. But by and large, the techs that make your units stronger in battle are going to be more important than other techs. And more than most factions, the longer the game goes on, the better you usually are with your units. Tip 4. Make sure you spread your corruption as far and as fast as you can. You have the ability to get significant vampiric corruption spread to enemies' lands through the Balefire tree of things. Vampiric corruption is very powerful because if you start to use vampiric corruption, and by and large, if you haven't, read the description, it not only will cause attritions on the enemy, of course you'll lose attritions if you don't have it, but more importantly, the rebels that pop up in lands are going to be reduced because as you get higher vampiric corruption, you gain public order. So the vampire counts require corruption for both offense as well as defense. The higher corruption, the better the effects are on your units, to the point that high-level stuff, you will get growth and recruitment costs. Low-level, you will struggle to recruit your cheap units. They will be more expensive. So spread corruption as far and as fast as you can. It's worth throwing down a corruption spreading building in pretty much every capital settlement so that it strengthens all your neighboring ones and weakens all your neighbors as well. Tip 5. The use of graveguards as well as a healing necromancer behind them can handle pretty much most melee problems in the game. There's very few enemies that can quickly break through a line of graveguards backed up by healing. By which I mean you need to cast both healing spells as well as mount your necromancer. The necromancer unit has a mount that does passively heal around them. Combining those two means that your graveguard units, which in case you don't know or you've forgotten what they are, they're pretty much your elite infantry. You don't have any level 3 infantry really other than specials. So graveguard, despite being like level tier 2, are pretty much the best it's going to get in melee for you. And they're very good. They're very tanky. They've got decent armor and stuff. They've got shields backed up by healing. They're easily tier 3 infantry units. So bring a necromancer to heal them, as well as use graveguards as your front line. As once you get them, they should pretty much replace most of your zombies and skeletons, except when you need the zombies and skeletons for just sheer numbers. Tip 6. Lords and heroes are key to winning and are very strong. So the average vampiric lord or even heroes not really counting necromancers, they're mages, are really good in melee combat. Manfred here is one of the top fighters in the game at the beginning. He's got 70 melee attack, which is above average. Your average, even your Tomb Kings here, are White Kings, are very strong at fighting, well armored, quite capable of killing most trash units and everything else. When I say they're key to winning, is they're the way you're going to get a lot of kills. Your infantry is not going to get tons of kills, and until you get monster units, you're going to struggle with killing things. The heroes and lords are the way to do it. Putting them in the middle of a group of your trash infantry units, so long as they're towards the front and they can't be surrounded, they will quite easily slaughter hundreds of the enemies. Even your basic vampiric spellcasting units are really good. Special mention, though, that the necromancers, on the other hand, they are your only hero unit that is not really good in fighting. They're there for healing. They're not there to fight in combat. But if you look at your spellcaster, Vampire of Death, this is probably one of the best spellcasters in the game in terms of actual ability to fight in melee combat. So don't be afraid to use your heroes and lords on the front line. Many people will hold them behind. You have to make sure they don't get sniped by enemy lords and heroes, but by and large, you want to deploy them to the front lines or keep them thereabouts, and don't panic if they get into a little bit of melee combat. Tip 7, Blood Kisses. Blood Kisses are really useful for you because they unlock the various bloodlines, which gives huge bonuses towards your gameplay. The fact that you get a 10% replenishment rate is massive for 3 blood kisses. Some people struggle with farming them. Use assassins. Your Banshee assassins unit, basically you summon them and you run around assassinating people. You'll struggle at first, but if you put them in an area with a vampire spellcaster, specifically there are some that can give bonuses towards success chance of other agents in the area. Put 1 or 2 of them in the same area, send out a Banshee assassin, level them up, and you will start bringing in significant blood kisses to the point that you may actually run out of things to spend blood kisses on by late game. The sooner you get deeper into the blood kiss tree, the better, because the only other way you're going to really farm them is killing faction leaders in battles. That's kind of it. You don't have tons of other ways of generating them. Vassalizing factions is almost impossible. The game creators really should let you know that really the only way to get them is through assassinations, and that's done through your Banshees. Tip 8, more than almost any other faction in the game, replenishment is very important for your faction. Without it, you have no ability to go on any sustained level of offense. Thankfully, you have plenty of ways of getting casualty replenishment. The blood kisses plus 10% is great. Your various lords and heroes, as you level them up and you get, Undying Horde here, that's another 6%, plus you have a better chance of your units resurrecting. There are other ways to boost it even higher, but suffice to say, replenishment is key for your ability to win battles and then keep going. It's not abnormal to have like 40 or 50% replenishment rate, meaning you can win a battle barely. Your units will almost be dead, but they're not. Give it a turn or 2, you'll be back to full. Other factions, like the Empire, which if you play in the Empire, you're going to be fighting, they struggle to win battle after battle. They have to take like 5-6 turns to rebuild or retrain. Vampire counts, though, once you start winning battles with replenishment, you can keep winning battles. Specific note, though, be aware of flaming weapons. Just like all the other undead or healing factions, flame reduces your ability to heal by 50 or more percent. It's really nasty. Factions that have flaming weapons, Khorne is a big one, as well as anybody who has access to the Winds of Flame, mages that use fire. Those are very dangerous, as well as anybody who has like siege artillery that does flame damage. Just be aware those things exist. They are very difficult to deal with. If your units start getting hit by flame, don't put healing on those unless you have to keep that unit alive. Put healing on the others. Losing percent healing is really painful for these guys. Best way to fight against them, though, if you hate fighting vampire counts, flaming weapons. Tip 9, your bloodline lords that you recruit, every time you put blood kisses into a bloodline, you unlock a new lord. Those lords are in fact immortal. Day 1 immortals. They're basically legendary lords, meaning the vampire accounts have access to 15 immortal lords at the beginning of the game, assuming they have blood kisses, whereas other factions have to either confederate and use legendary lords, or level up their lords to level 20 and make them immortal that way. The vampire accounts, don't worry about it. Honestly, with plus 15 plus any of the legendary vampire counts that you may confederate, you're probably never going to need to raise a lord that isn't already immortal day 1. Why do you want to use them that way? Well, the vampire counts really rely on high-level lords with lots of abilities and high-level spell casting. So going from a level 15 lord leading an army to a level 1 leading an army is a huge drop in combat strength for your army. Whether or not it's just actual combat stats, higher lords are going to be able to kill more units usually, but also the campaign replenishment and stuff. Use the immortal lines lords, even if they're just going to fight a single battle and then be disbanded, or fight a single battle and lose. Keeping the continual chain of XP on them, building them up, really makes a difference, especially once you start to get to the late levels with mentorship. You can rapidly get your all immortal lords over like 20 or even up to 30, at which point you should be wrecking everybody in the game. They're that strong. And the final tip, you are a melee faction. You basically have no ranged units outside of a couple or ones you get from allies, meaning you're basically going to charge in onto the enemy and you're going to fight. Now, you're not a charge faction, so you can't rinse and repeat with like Cav or something. Once you get into melee combat, assume those units are going to stay in that specific battle till either they die or the enemy routs or dies. This means clever plans on how to run your battles are needed, because once you commit, you're pretty much committed. It is extraordinarily hard for vampiric units to disengage and pull back. Your units are particularly slow, and they don't tend to get much faster. You do have some cav, and those you do want to charge and repeat, but by and large, your cav are not going to be the focus of your battle. It's going to be holding lines with infantry while cav flanks, so you can kind of pull off hammer and amble, but even your cav can sometimes get bogged down in combat. So clever plans are needed. Flanks, trying to just slightly withdraw enemy units and then collapse on them, or use your zombie units to tie up the enemy elite units while you slaughter everyone else, using your lords mostly protected by melee units so that they can get to the front line without being surrounded and picked off. It makes a huge difference with playing this faction. People like to disparage the vampire counts as just those guys you just throw in a straight line, they fight, they either win or die. Not the case. To play them well, you need to use spells to buff and strengthen units as well as heal them. Positioning matters with lords and heroes, specifically necromancers, which have passive healing. Everything about the vampire counts is more complex than you would imagine if you want to play at a high level. They're still simple compared to other factions, but they're by no means brain dead. They don't just charge into the enemy and die. There are plans within plans. You're not the Skaven, but you're definitely not dumb brutes either. And that will be it for this guide. Hopefully this helps you play the vampire counts better. They're one of my favorite factions to play. And if this guide helped you, please like, comment, subscribe. If you've got any of your own tips and advice, leave them below. People love that. And I will see you all in another guide or Let's Play. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.